Welcome to the Chart Properties and Tools video. Let's take a look at what we'll cover in this video. We'll start by looking at the chart properties. We'll then take a look at how to turn off and turn on the grid. We'll also take a look at different time frames. We'll move on to the chart shift button. We'll take a look at the auto scroll and how to adjust it. We'll play around with the crosshairs. We'll look at how to manipulate the price line, and also look at how to find the current chart time. So let's get started. Properties. In this part of the video, we're going to take a look at how to adjust the properties of your charts. At the moment, you can see that I've got a chart open on my window. Now, if I want to adjust the properties and change the way the chart looks, all I've got to do is right-click on the chart, and you can see on the sub-menu right at the bottom, I've got a properties option. And if I click that, it's going to bring up the properties box. Now, that's not the only way to access the properties window. As you can see down here, there is a shortcut key for it as well. So if you're on your chart at any time and if you want to look at the properties, just press the F8 button on your keyboard, and there you go. There is another way to access the properties window, and that is to go to the charts item on the menu. If you click on that, right down at the bottom here, you're going to see the properties link again. So click on that, and it's going to bring up the properties window. Now right here, we have the colors tab. So you can see we have the color schemes. There are a couple of default color schemes that do come loaded into the MT4 platform, and if you like, you can choose one of those. Okay. The default is the green on black, and that's the one that you see on my chart at the moment. Now, over here on the right-hand side, you can see a number of different items, and you can see colors that go along with them. Now, you can change each of these colors, and it will update here on this preview window. So let's take a look at what will happen if we change the background. So let's just select white, and as you can see on the left-hand side here, it's changed the way our chart looks. Now, the background is going to change the background color. The foreground is actually what you see out here. The text, the numbers, the dates, the times. Let's go ahead and change it and make that black. And as you can see, it's just popped up over here on the preview window once again. The grid is what you see here, these little grid lines. Okay, and you can change the color of that if you want. Let's just go ahead and change the bar up color, and we'll make the bar up color lime green. Now the bar up color is only going to change the outline of that particular candle, of the up bars. Let's change the bar down. Let's change bar down to red. And you can see again, bar up and bar down is only going to change the outlines of the candles. If you want to change the full of the candles, you've got to go down here to the bull and bear candles. So right now, I'd like my bull candles to be lime green, so I've changed it, and you can see it's been changed over here on my chart. For the bear candles, let's make them red. And as you can see, they now appear red on the preview window. The line graph option essentially is only needed for the line graph. If you were using a line chart, this is the color that you would see the graph being shown in. Volumes appear down here. You can see these little vertical lines. That shows the volume. And if you wanted to change the color of that, you just got to change it out here. By default, your MT4 platform is showing you the bid price. Now over here, you can notice one price. And over here on the preview window, you can also see the price. Now by default, that is the bid price. But you can also show an ask line. And this little option here allows you to change the color of the ask line. Finally, you have the stop levels, and these are set to red. So when you're actually in a trade and you place your stop loss and your take profit levels, this is the color that these lines will appear on your chart. So let's just click OK. We've made a few changes to this chart. Let's see what happens. There you go. So we've just clicked on OK, and you can see the entire look and feel of our chart has been changed. Now let's go look at some more options. I'm going to press the F8 key, and it's going to bring up the properties window. Now, next to the colors tab, we've got the common tab. So let's go click on that. Here you can see a number of different options. Let's just start here from the left. You can see offline chart. There's no real need for us to use that. Chart on foreground. What this means is if you were to insert any indicators or any lines, if you had this option ticked, it would put your candles on top of those lines. Personally, I don't like to use that. When I draw a line or an indicator, I like to see it on top of the price. So I'm going to leave that one alone for now. Chart shift is going to push our charts a bit to the left. At the moment, the chart appears on the right edge. By using the chart shift, it's going to shift it a little bit and give us some space so that we can see the candles clearly. So let's just click on OK. And as you can see here, the chart shift has been applied. Now, we'll cover the chart shift in a bit more detail later on. But for now, you know how to enable it. Let's go back to our properties window. Down here at the bottom, you'll see the scale options. I've never been one to use any scale options, and I've never met a trader who's used the scale options before. But if you want to, you can edit them over here. On the top right-hand corner, you have the different chart types. You can see you've got the bar charts, candlesticks, and line charts. So if you wanted to change to a different type of chart, you can do that here. Down here, we have a few more options. Over here, you can see Show OHLC. That means open, high, low, and close. And what that means is, if you hover over any of the candles here, let's just untick that. And you'll notice that if you hover over any of the candles here, it's not going to show you the open, high, low, and close. Let's go back to our properties. And I'm going to enable that again. Click on OK. And so now if we go down to our chart and you hover over a candle, you can see we have the open, high, low, close. We even have the volume and the date and the time. Let's go back to properties. Over here, you can see you have the show ask line. And if you click on that, it's going to show the ask line. So the red line is the ask line. The gray line that you see here is the bid price. Let's go back to our properties window. You've also got the show period separators. Depending on the time frame that you're looking at, the show period separators will insert a vertical line. Now, because we're on a 1 hour chart, show period separators is going to insert a period separator after every 24 hours. Show the grid, you can choose whether you want to display the grid or not. And also you've got show volumes. I don't personally like to see volume, so I'm not really interested, so I choose not to display that. The object descriptions, if you were to add any objects like lines, arrows, this would display the descriptions. I feel that it clutters up the chart a little bit, so I'm not going to show that. I'm also going to take off the ask line. I'm not too keen on seeing that right now. So let's click on OK, and there you go. Now you can choose to customize your charts however you see fit. A lot of traders find it a lot easier to trade when they're looking at charts that have the colors that they like or the colors that they prefer. So it's entirely up to you. Now you know how to customize your charts. The grid. Let's take a closer look at the grid. By default, every chart that you open on MT4 is going to present you with the grid. And these are the little crisscross lines that you see here. Now there's an easy way for you to turn off the grid. And the way that you do that is if you right click on your chart, you'll notice amongst the options you have the grid. And you'll notice that when the grid is switched on or when it's visible on your chart, you'll notice that next to the icon, you've got a little square around it. It's squared. That means it's selected. So if you want to switch it off, all you've got to do is click on it and you'll notice that the grid is gone. And that's just one way to enable and disable the grid. Another way that you can do this is if you go up to the charts item on the menu bar, click on that, and again, you can see the grid. And notice that this time, it's not squared. Just take a look at that little icon there. And if I move away, you can see that it is no longer squared. So if I click on it, it's going to put the grid back on my chart. Another way that you can enable and disable the grid is if you go to the properties window. So from our previous lesson, we know that if you press the F8 key, it's going to bring up the properties window. And down here, you can see that we have the option to show the grid. By default, it is ticked. So if I untick that and then go click on OK, the grid's been removed. Now, there's another interesting thing to pay attention to. Back here on our Properties window, let's just turn the grid back on. I'm going to go to the Colors tab, and you'll notice that we have an option for the grid. Now that means we can change the color of the grid to any color we want. Now, one of the other things to bear in mind is that the bid price is the same color as the grid. So let's just see what happens here. I'm going to change this to blue. Actually, that might not be such a good example. Let's go ahead and change it to pink or magenta. So I'm going to click OK. You'll notice that the grid has been inserted and it is in magenta. And you can also see that the bid price or the price line has also been changed. And if I get rid of the grid, you can clearly see a magenta price line being displayed here. So that's how the grid works. Using the grid is a matter of personal preferences. I prefer not to use the grid because I believe it does make my chart look a bit busy. Some traders prefer to use it, and one of the ways that they do use it, if it is a bit too bright on your screen, what you could do is change it to a color that's a bit easier on the eyes. I've just selected Gainsborough there. Click on that, and you can barely see it, but you know it is there. You can see the grid, but it's not as obtrusive. It doesn't make your chart as cluttered as it can be. So that's one way that you can use the grid. Time frames. Let's take a look at the different time frames that are available on the MT4 platform. By default, every time you open up a new chart on the MT4 platform, it's going to set it to the 1 hour time frame. What that means is that each of the bars that you see on your chart were formed in 1 hour. From start to finish, it took 1 hour to form this bar, it took 1 hour to form this bar, and so on and so on. Each of the bars here took an hour to form. Now you can change the time frame to suit your trading preferences, and the easiest ways to do that is to use the icons at the top here. Now you'll notice you have a number of different options that you can choose. You have the 1 minute, you have the 5 minute, the 15 minute, 30 minute, the 1 hour, 4 hour, the daily, the weekly, and the monthly. And clicking on any one of them is going to present you with a chart. Now, right now we're looking at a 1 minute chart. So each of these bars, let's actually change that to candlesticks so we can see it a little clearer. Each of these bars have taken just 1 minute to complete. If you were to change to a daily chart, each of the candles that you're seeing here have taken 1 complete day from start to finish. Another way to change the time frames on your charts is to come up here. You've got a periods button. If you click on that, it's going to present you with the same selection that you see here on this menu. And clicking one of the options is going to change the chart. Another way that you can change the time frame is to go up to the charts item on the menu bar. Click on that. You'll notice that you have a periodicity option. If you hover over it, it's going to present you with the same time frame selections. So that's all there is to it. Changing the time frame on your chart is pretty easy. You can use the method that works best for you. Chart shift. By default, your MT4 charts are always going to display the current candle on the extreme right-hand side of the chart. Now, a lot of traders like to have a bit of space next to the current candle, so that makes trading a little easier. Actually, looking at the candles a little easier. And one of the ways that you can do this is by using the chart shift. Now, the easiest way to actually apply chart shift is to use the icon at the top of the menu here. This little icon that you see is the chart shift button. If you click on that, it's going to push your charts a bit to the left-hand side. It gives you some nice clear space out here on the right-hand side. Maybe you want to draw some trend lines or put down some notes or something like that. That's where this feature becomes quite handy. It also moves the current candle away from the extreme right-hand edge so that you can get a good look at that candle as it's being formed. Now, there's a number of different ways to apply chart shift. The easiest way, like I mentioned already, is to use the chart shift button. You can also right-click on your chart, go to Properties, go to the Common tab. You've got the chart shift option here. If you untick it, click on OK. You can see that it has been disabled. Another way that you can enable and disable chart shift is if you go up here to the charts item on the menu bar, click on that, and down here you can see chart shift. Now right now you'll notice that the icon is not squared off, so that means it's not enabled. And if you click on it, it's going to enable it. Now one other thing to be aware of is that you do not need to have your chart shifted to this exact position. Up here at the top, you'll be able to see a little chart shift arrow. And if you click on that, drag it around, it's going to allow you to change the position. Now, you're not allowed to move it all the way to the left-hand side. It's going to stop you or limit you to just the middle of the chart. You're also not going to be able to move it all the way to the right-hand side either. As you can see, it only allows you to drag it that far. One other thing to bear in mind is that the color of the chart shift arrow is the same color as the grid. So let's go out here to our properties window. I'm going to go to the colors tab. I'm going to go to the grid and let's change the color to red. Okay, I'm going to turn off the grid for now so that we can see this a little clearer. And if you look up here at the chart shift arrow, color has now been changed to red. Okay, so you now know how to apply the chart shift. Auto scroll. Let's take a look at how the auto scroll feature works. On the current chart, I do not have the auto scroll feature switched on. So if I wanted to scroll backwards, I could scroll with no problems whatsoever. Up here at the top is the auto scroll button. Watch what happens when I switch the auto scroll on. There you go. As soon as a new tick of data enters the MT4 platform and is refreshed in your charts, the auto scroll is going to throw your chart back to the current bar. And that's a useful feature to have, especially when you're using lower time frames. Now let me show you what would happen if you didn't have the auto scroll turned on and you were switching between time frames. I've just disabled the auto scroll and I'm going to go down and just move a little bit back on my chart and then go down to the 30-minute chart. Now right now you can see I've switched down from one time frame, but I've doubled the number of candles. And it's taking me way back further than I actually want to go. Now in order to get back to the current candle, I've got to scroll and I've got to drag. An easy way to do that, let's just go down to some lower time frames and take a look. Let's just go down to a 5-minute and you can see it's taking me back again. Now an easy way for us to get back to the current candle is to use the auto scroll. If I click on that, as soon as a new tick of data has been received by the platform, it brings me back to the current candle. And if you use this together with the chart shift feature, it's really nice because you can always see the current candle. Every time a new candle is formed, and as price continues to move forward, it's going to reposition the chart for us. Now there's a number of different ways you can enable the auto scroll. If you right click on the chart and go to the properties window, go to the common tab, you see you have the option to select the chart auto scroll. Another way that you can do it is go up to the charts menu item, scroll down, and again you have the auto scroll. So now you know how to enable and disable the auto scroll. Crosshairs. Let's take a look at the crosshairs tool. There's a number of different ways that you can insert the crosshairs. The easiest way, and by far the most common, is by using the crosshair icon on the top menu. If you click on that, it's going to change your cursor to a crosshair. Now, the nice thing about the crosshairs tool is that it presents you with some very good information. Before we take a look at how it works, let's see how we can add the crosshairs to our chart. If you click on the chart, it's going to remove the crosshairs. An easy way to get the crosshairs back is to use your mouse scroll button. And if you click on it, it's going to present the crosshairs. Now this does depend on the device, on your mouse itself, and if you don't have a scroll button, it's not going to work. There is another way that you can show the crosshairs, and that is by using your keyboard. If you hold down the Control key and press the letter F, it's going to display the crosshairs. And if you click anywhere on the chart, it's going to remove it. So Control and F will display the crosshairs, clicking on the chart will remove it. It's the same when using the icon. If you click on the chart, it's going to be removed. Now let's take a look at how it works and what kind of information it's going to give you. When you have the crosshairs turned on, you can select a starting point. Let's just select that low. And if you click on it and then drag, you'll notice that there are 3 numbers being displayed. Now, let's just find a point where we can end. Let's just go all the way up here to the top of that move. Now, the 3 numbers that you see displayed next to the crosshairs, the first one is the number of candles. And that's the number of candles from our starting point. So if you were to move a little to the left, you can see as we get closer to our starting point, the numbers decrease. And as we get further away from our starting point, the first number increases. So at our chosen endpoint, we can see that it is 110 candles away from the start point. The next number, 718, is the number of pips. Now this is a 5-digit broker, so 718 is actually 71.8 pips. And as you can see, when I move my mouse lower and closer to a horizontal position, the number of pips decreases. At the moment, you can see just 45 or 4.5 pips. Up here, we've got 324 or 32.4. And up here at our endpoint, we've got 714 or 71.4 pips. The final number on the crosshair is the current price. The price at which we are right now is at 102.677. And you can see if I move lower, the price moves lower. The other thing to note is that we have chosen our starting point. If we were to move the crosshairs downwards, it's the same thing. The first number represents the number of candles away from the starting point we are. And if we look at this current position, we are 161 candles away from our starting point. The next number shows us 140. So that means we are 14 pips away from our start point. So the current price of this level right now is 101.817. So now you know how the crosshairs work. Price line. There may be occasions or there may be a reason why you would like to change the appearance of your price line. Changing the color of the price line or removing it entirely from your charts is pretty easy to do. Let's look at how to change the color of the price line. The first thing you want to do is press the F8 key to bring up the Properties window. On the Properties window, click on Colors and then go to the Grid drop-down list. Over here, you can change the color of the price line. So at the moment, you can see that the price line is set to light slate gray. The same color also applies to the grid. So let's just change this to yellow. Click OK. And if you come out to the chart here, you'll notice I have the grid switched off. You'll see that the price line is now yellow. Now there's also a way to hide the price line. Let's go back to the Properties window. If you go out to the grid option, click on the drop down and select None, then click OK, you'll notice that the price line is hidden. It's still there because you can see the price being highlighted over here, the current price, but the price line color has just been disabled. So now you know how to change the colors and hide the price line. Current chart time. Let's take a look at how you can determine the current chart time on your MT4 platform. The easiest way to identify the chart time is to go up to the MarketWatch window. Over here, on the top menu bar, you can see we have the MarketWatch icon. Click on that, and the chart window will be displayed. At the top here, you'll notice that there is the text MarketWatch, and then you've got a time that runs by. Now, this time is set by the broker. It cannot be changed. It cannot be manipulated in any way. It is set by the broker, and it's just a way for you to determine the current time based on your broker and your charting package. So that's it for now. I'll see you in the next video.